the only revenue generator, Marketing 2085. Let's consider price in a little more detail. Here's our agenda. I'm going to look at and briefly explain how not to price. If you understand that, that will help you greatly to understand how to price. Then we'll look at basic pricing strategies such as skimming, penetration, and the concept of cents off. And always remember, whatever pricing strategy you choose, it must align with positioning strategy. It cannot be separated. This is the constant that flows through every P that we've talked about and will talk about. Okay, how not to price. Now remember, pricing is deceptively simple, and to put it simply, you would say or consider, well, we add up all our costs, we add in a profit, and that equals the selling price. Well, that ignores quite a few things. It's sort of like if you want to sell a used car and you put 4 new tires on it, and you think, well, I've got $400 in tires, and then I got to add $400 to the price. And someone comes to buy your car and they say, I'm interested in buying it, what do you want for it? And you say, well, I want to add $400 to the price. And they'll say, well, it's only worth X amount of dollars according to the Blue Book, which is a standard for pricing used cars. So the meaning, here's what you should understand. Just because I put more money into it doesn't mean it's worth that to somebody. A product is only worth what someone is willing to pay. All right, and that would be, an example of just making the product ready for sale. This is why you have to have very good control of your cost structure. It's not that we want to ignore costs, it's that we want to greatly take them into consideration, but we want to really know is, what does the target market think? So how are we going to position the product? Is it a premium product? Is it a middle-of-the-road product? Is it a entry level? So if we take Cadillac, Buick, and Chevrolet, Cadillac would carry, for General Motors, a premium price relative to the other two. Buick would be in the middle, and Chevrolet would be at the bottom, more entry level, lower prices. They're positioned that way. Everything about them, including the price, places that in the mind of the target market. So what do we do? First of all, we determine the target price. So if we're pricing things in the middle, that's our target price. And it's going to be different. I'm not going to say a number because it doesn't really matter. It depends on the competitive landscape, meaning the other offers out there, and how you're going to position yourself relative to those competitors. Okay, so determine a target price. Then you work backwards from there. Then you look at and determine, well, what's my real cost structure? How much does it cost me to bring this product or service to the market? That's why you have to have really good cost accountants. They're invaluable to you because you got to know if there's margin left over. So then, after you get determined a target price, the cost structure, now what is an acceptable profit margin? Could be a percentage, could be a dollar amount, but it has to be worth your while. If there's no margin left, if there's no profit left in it because your cost structure is so high, you'd probably better avoid getting into that market because you can't compete there. You're not going to make any money because just because your cost structure is high doesn't mean anybody's willing to pay that extra, because it's a competitive world, at competitive markets. But once you've determined the margin and you're comfortable with that and there's money to be had there, now you've got a price. Now you've got a target price with a acceptable cost structure or a carefully determined cost structure, and you've got a profit margin that makes it worth your while to do it, and you've got a target price that the target market sees as a value. It's worth what they're paying. That's the key thing here. So this is, as you go through this chapter and this week, keep those things in mind. Let's look at a couple other things now. So price strategy basics, they kind of break down into two really basic methods, skimming and penetration. Now skimming, if you think of the total market for, let's say, shoes, a skimming strategy would be we're going to price relatively high and skim off large profit margins. But correspondingly, the higher priced product in a category tends to sell fewer units. So we're going to have high margin or high profit margin, low units sold, or low volume, relatively speaking. Now again, this is very, very generalized. But you need to understand skimming and penetration because it's part of the vocabulary of marketing. And the other is penetration. Penetration's goal, so in skimming, the goal is high profit margin. Penetration's goal is market share. We want to sell to as many customers as possible, so we're going to price it as a less expensive alternative to gain market share. But our margin or profit percentage per unit sold is going to be small or smaller. So our goal is to have high volume, but we're going to trade that for low margins or low profit margins or percentage. And then cents off, you're rarely going to see even dollar amounts. And this is more of a psychological play. So $9.95, $19.95, $19.99, those types of things, because it's way closer to $20 or $10, but it's a psychological game that numbers show or have when we read them. And that's why you see cents off pricing, such as this example here. So, as you study pricing, understand that it's part of positioning strategy. Very definitely. It's the initial signal that people usually see. Well, how much is it? What do I get for the money I spend? Here's where the product and the place strategy coincide with the positioning as well as the pricing. So read carefully, take this to heart, and you'll be a smart marketer if you can apply this correctly.